I think what Frank said at dinner last night was dead on. We're the luckiest mofos.
Invite me next time.
We're the luckiest mofos in the industry because we do know what's going on and we do have experience and we've been doing it for a long time. And whether you take some of the new real estate or not, that's not what the issue is. It's what's going to happen to the world of everybody that's not online yet. It's not for the aftermarket right now. It's for people that aren't online yet. It's for new companies. It's for my kids that aren't even out of school yet, that haven't created their business yet. It's a completely new market. It's not for the people in this room. That's not why we're launching this.
I think Frank is the best. If I were betting on anybody, I'd bet on Frank. Listen, Frank's been in this industry. Frank understands this industry.
Frank. There's people that are in our space that have really bowed up and spending millions and millions of dollars, like Frank and Direct Nick and Web.com and Microsoft and Google and Amazon.
There was also a lot of people that were
guys, one at a time, please.
There's also a lot of people that were never in this space that are seeing a money grab, an opportunity to make a lot of money. Frank, you understand it. You understand the bumps in the road. You'll probably be there to pick up their extensions when they go bankrupt. But I think that many of these people would be well served. They could go in and buy a lot of portfolios in this room and do a hell of a lot better than the money they're spending.
That may be true. As Jeff said, 80%, it's going to be like any other business. 80% may fail, and there'll be 20% that exists.
I think you're generous.
Monte, can I have another 20 seconds?
There's no guarantees in life. There's no guarantees in anything. There's no guarantees in life. There's no guarantees in anything. So this is like any new venture, any new business.
We do
have history.
Maestro, a little history,
but
please.
It's new history.
.jobs, .travel, .museum, .aero, new TLDs which were opened up a few years ago. There's pretty much tumbleweed around all of those. Do you think that all these domains are going to be buzzing, vibrant places which will really change the internet, or are they're going to be as pretty much empty as all those other ones are now?
Yeah, our job is to offer consumer choice and enhance competition. It's up to those consumers to pick the winners and the losers. And our job is to focus on the security and stability of the domain name system.
Okay, we'll cut back. Judy Berkins has been waiting patiently to say something. Hold on.
Okay. I just wanted to make one simple statement, and this is this. My doctor has .com, okay? But when I told him what was coming out, he said, well, I'll buy that too. Now, if that means that it's too more of an elite set, I don't know. But to me, one word is progress. And we all get along, and it's going to happen, and it doesn't make a difference. We'll all make money.
Thank you, Judy. Just to move this forward, it would seem to me that those that have succeeded have spent what they call a shitload of money in marketing. I mean, it takes marketing to be successful in this business. .co is obviously a good example. They did marketing, they got together with GoDaddy, and they became at least successful in their own right. Whether they continue to be successful is another thing. On the other hand, there's, like was mentioned earlier, .travel, which sounds to me like it would be a winner in any case. They did not market it, and it was not successful, at least not yet.
Yeah, .travel came out as an STLD and limited, but actually .travel is a very successful registry. Nobody knows, most people don't know that, but it clears $1.4 million in profit every year in their little 60,000 registration set.
There's a difference between...
And it was an STLD that was locked down for only travel agents and people in the travel industry. If it launched today as an unrestricted TLD, it might be the biggest one of all of them.
It'd be a total home run.
Double home run.
There's a big difference between looking at it through the eyes of a business of a registry and looking at it like we look at it through the eyes of a domain investor. That's a huge difference. As far as a registry, they're going to make money. Frank's going to make a shitload of money. They're going to make a fortune. Listen, They don't have to register that many domains to be that profitable. That doesn't translate into us buying it for $50 and selling it for $500,000. That's the disconnect.
I agree, but I mean, I started out as a domain investor, domainer, whatever you want to, you know, I started out like
four-time domainer of the year, I might add.
Oh, thank you, it's good, sir. Well, I no, but I mean, seriously, I remember
for number 5
to get these names and get SLDs and try to make money with them. And one of the things, you know, you can use those 3 criteria that I mentioned at the outset: low renewal prices. You know, you could see who is doing what. Like when .tv came out with variable pricing, you know, we're going to charge you $15,000. There are people who are still paying VeriSign $10,000 a year for their .tv name. They're locked into some old deal that's terrible, right? And that's not the way to build a great registry. TV could have been a great namespace if they put it out at like, you know, $10, $12. You know, low renewal prices, hands-off governance, let people do what they want with their TV, and that's what you got to kind of look for as a domainer. Is you got to look at who's operating the registry, how much are they charging per name? What are they going to do? When we do our land rush, you know, on many of our spaces, we're going to put out everything available, like the best names, the best SLDs at registration price. Go get them. But then after the first week, we'll start to move in and take our registry reserved as registry assets for those that don't take them. So, you know, that gives you an opportunity to, you want to deal with a registry operator like that. Not everybody will do that. I get it. And, you know, and even the ones, it's even possible that even though we have best intentions to try to offer some of these cheaply to everybody, that they won't be successful as some of the other ones where they're much more mercantilist registry operators who are trying to, you know, make much more money off of that.
If you were starting today we're, you know, back in the day, and you had all these extensions open to you, what would you do?
I see it as like the mother of all opportunities.
Where would you go, though? If you were in the same position you were in,
I would try to. I would look at the spectrum. I would look at the spectrum of what, just what I said, who's offering what as they're coming out, and I would try to take good extensions in many of these spaces, and then I would try to sell them because the prices on these will go up. You know, there will be names that get offered at registration price, low prices, under $30 per year, good names. And you try to take those ones that make sense. It takes research. You got to look at, you know, search habits. What are people searching for? And then try to find, like, this is the obvious example, and this name probably won't be available for registration price when it comes out, but like used.cars, stuff like that, where it makes sense, you know. If there were DUI space, Maryland.DUI.
You'd be overwhelmed by opening up a 300 extensions to apply for. You would.
The words don't change. I know it feels overwhelming. I know what you're feeling right now when you say that. You said it a moment ago. That's what I was trying to jump in and say. It feels overwhelming to see all these different choices. But you know, people aren't going to register toiletpaper.bankrupt. You know, they're going to register, you know, toiletpaper.web or something like that.
I've been to these conferences for a lot of years, and I always these guys walk around with these great big lists of names.
Yeah.
.info, and I'm looking.
Lonnie, would you speak in the mic, please?
There were people walking around for years with these great lists of domain names they registered. Their brilliant idea that they spent God knows how much money on .info.
Yeah.
And you look at them and you're nauseous.
Well, you don't buy those names.
Well, I understand that. It's like that, you know, I think that's what a lot of these registries are hoping for.
Well, that's true.
That's how they're going to be successful. They're going to be successful with those who are going to fail. They won't be successful
that's true.
because of those that will succeed.
Again, that depends on the extension. I mean, it really depends on the extension.
Extension has meaning.
How many people are going to come out and register an extension and then have this fabulous startup that's going to go bonkers in the next 5 years versus how many people are going to buy all these names they're going to sit on and eventually let them drop?
That could happen too. But you know what? The thing is that, you know, again, that 1% of people have a domain name. There are going to be people who need to backfill your work. Your son's friend.
He knows .com. He wants magicstore.com.
You know, right now
I'm selling on your platform.
I want .com too because there is no right now. Snapshot right now. There is no other domain. There is no other domain. We're going to have .tattoo, which isn't one of the strong ones in our roster.
Well, that's what I was just going to ask you, Frank. Uniregistry has a number of extensions in the works.
Yeah.
2 questions. What do you anticipate will be the first one coming out of the box? And then the second one is, what do you think will be most successful?
Thank you. So, Howard, I think, .tattoo will be first. We'll be in the root. You'll be able to see, you know, tattoo resolve in the root, hopefully by Halloween. So to put this when these are coming. And then we go into what's called Sunrise, where brands get to put names in a trademark clearinghouse and they get pulled away, and then there's a quiet period of some kind, and so we'll have general availability on .tattoo in January. And again, we projected 25,000 registrations in .tattoo. It's like an also-ran that we hope it'll be successful. We're going to price it in a cost-effective way at low prices, but you got to think about how people are going to publish content there, what they're going to put up, how they're going to use them. And we don't think that's a particularly mammoth string, Howard. And then in terms of successful ones, I've been blathering on to anybody who cares to listen about .link. I like that because it's generic. It works for first names. It works for names, all kinds of stuff. And it'll be cheap. It'll be $8. So at $8, I like .link. I like it better than info, certainly.
And when do you project that coming out?
That'll be before the end of the first quarter of 14. So, .sexy will be big. I think that'll be a global chuckle of the day name. I'll take my name .sexy. I just think it's funny. And again, $8. How can you say no? So I think a lot of these will be successful, and it'll be probably some of the people in this room will participate, and others won't, and then there are going to be newcomers.
When I look in my eNom account, I see over the years when I used to go and get the .org and the .net, I used to spend a lot of money going after the .net and the .org. I don't even and every time I buy a name now, I get offered the .net, the .org, the .info, the .yeah. I don't even look at them. I got to a point where how much money can I spend on something that it's just when I go to sell a domain name, I've never increased the sale by saying I can offer the .net or the .org. Right. If anything, they'll take it for free. So a long time ago, I gave up on that, saying I'm just going to focus on the .com. My money is best spent on that one name, rather than buy the .org, the .net. Unless I think they're great extensions, and if I were developing a name there, I own baby.net. At the end of the day, I'm not going to spend my money developing baby.net. It's a great name, but if I'm going to do it, it's got to be baby.com.
Right. Net has baggage, a little bit. Started out as a networking company's domain name, and it's kind of like org has the baggage of being in the charity, whatever, it's charitable, it's an NGO type thing. And
you ask people, those are the 3 extensions they know. I mean, that's really what they know is
because they're the only ones that exist, really.
Right.
I mean,
that's the ones they know today.
I'm talking today. How many extensions exist today?
Yeah, that's the ones we know today in our generation. But the next generation is going to know 500 new ones.
Right.
They're also Facebook's going to get a lot better at what they do, and Instagram's going to get a lot better at what they do.
Yep. There'll be places for that too.
And there are going to be more and more people getting Facebook pages for free without having to have a domain name. Yeah. Just go in a search box. So you're up against that as well.
Right. Some people with Facebook pages. .com is up against that as well.
And some people with Facebook pages will want to own a domain. Some people with Facebook pages will want to own a better name than facebook.com/groups/something and point it to their Facebook page.
This is not a stagnant market. It's a growing market.
My in-laws still have
increasing
AOL
every day.
dial-up.
The worldwide market is only 25% penetrated on the web in the whole world.
In '94.
That means
just shows why .com will still grow.
There's a shitload of opportunity. There's 5 billion people not even online yet. It's going to change. Everything's going to change. It's going to be much different.
We've all gone
not with our world, the new world.
We've all gone through that phase where we're concerned about names might go away. We're all going to be using real names was a big thing back in the day. Right. Microsoft real names and Facebook today and Twitter. But in 2004, I said when Yunyi, I was the guy who introduced Marchex to Yunyi to do that deal, the first big domain portfolio deal. And I said to Yun, I said, I'm actually kind of worried that names will go away with all this real name stuff. And he says, Frank, don't worry. Names are not going to go away because there's no email without a domain name. And that's the thing. You needed, in order for there to be email, you need a domain. So, believe me, if Facebook, Google, all these companies would like nothing more than domain names to go away, and all navigation happens through the Google, through the Facebook, right?
Names won't go away, but many extensions will.
Many extensions will, but many won't. There'll be a lot of new ones. It's like
on Sunday, it's the National Football League. Beyond that, I'm not looking for any other sport.
Lonnie,
I know, but as Rick mentioned, NASCAR is now bigger than NFL.
It's 1900. And we're in New York City, and I'm telling you, there's going to be Los Angeles, there's going to be Houston,
no doubt.
There's going to be Dallas,
and they maybe make more sense on a local level. But
and if there were no New York, if there was only New York, and there was no Los Angeles, and there was no Seattle, and there's no Houston, then you'd have 1,000-story skyscrapers, and Bill Gates could afford a 2-bedroom apartment in Manhattan, right?
But according to your scenario, Manhattan becomes devalued because of Kansas City and Seattle, and I don't see it that way. I don't see it as a threat. I see it as Manhattan just keeps going up and up and up. When did Manhattan go down?
Let's hope that happens. That's great.
It just goes up. Listen,
that's great.
There's more people on the planet.
I think the basic difference between the two sides is that you believe that it'll benefit .com, and you believe that it'll take away.
But that's exactly right.
Absent Los Angeles and absent Houston and absent Dallas, Manhattan real estate that would be much, much more valuable. I'm saying that all these new spaces will marginalize. There's $20 million homes in Beverly Hills.
But show me the evidence. There's
There's more expensive homes in Beverly Hills than in New York City.
When you make a statement like that, you have to have evidence that the prices in New York City are declining because of Chicago and LA. When are prices in New York declining? Go buy a condo in New York. You get 900 feet for $3 million.
Right. But I'm saying if there was no Los Angeles, if there was no Miami, other great cities to visit.
But you got 7 billion people. If there wasn't 6 billion other people,
commonsensically would be much.
There are enough people to go around. That's the whole point. But
5 billion people aren't on the web yet.
There's a big difference between actuality, logical thinking, and what has actually happened, as opposed to wishful thinking. And a lot of nobody has a crystal ball, at least not one that works well. And that's what we're talking about, a crystal ball.
Howard, where the rubber really hits the road, we're talking about when somebody skins their wallet to buy your domain name, your .com domain name, for whatever, $100,000, $1 million, whatever, right? They're expecting that name is going to go up to 10 million, 20 million, and it may. But what I'm saying is that there's a greater risk of that being marginalized and more growth in the new stuff.
That's the point. There's no historical evidence of that happening. There's evidence of exactly the opposite happening, and I'm pointing it out. So you can't ignore it. You have to address it.
I sort of have with my New York, Los Angeles example, or 1900 New York City. There is no Los Angeles.
You can drive to Pennsylvania and buy hundreds of acres of undeveloped land.
I'm going out west on the train tomorrow.
People don't live there.
Why are people not building skyscrapers in Pennsylvania where it's cheap?
I'm going to Vegas tomorrow. I'm getting on a train. It's going to take me 3 days to get out there, and I'm going to build a city filled with casinos in Las Vegas. It's going to be there, and it's going to rival other great cities in the East. You're like, go, I'm going to stay in New York. New York's going to be the greatest ever.
Well, of course,
but wait a second. They depended on the people from New York to get on a damn plane to fly to Vegas. You forgot that element.
There are people
if the people
from
New York didn't get on the plane to fly to Vegas, there'd be no Las Vegas.
But they both exist.
Let's not praise Bugsy Siegel, okay? Let me, we only have about 5 minutes left. Yeah, let me ask the audience if there's anybody who has a question to this fantastic panel. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Matt. Just from a stylistic point of view, I've got friends who are, fashion photographers and that sort of thing. They love the look of, something else, which is relevant and relevant. They see that they can eliminate the com, and they see that as sort of not sort of visually interesting or conveying information. So I'm just trying to think of a good one, but it might be toy.sales. I mean, you're really knocking out a couple of characters which don't tell you anything, I guess. So that's my feedback from people in advertising and so on, and they don't see it coming. I mean, they don't even know it's coming. But when they look at it, that's what I see.
How many of you think that .coms will be hurt by gTLDs? Raise your hand. And how many of you think that GLTs will actually increase the value of .com? Raise your hand.
Okay. It would seem to me that the whole key is advertising. If you see billboards with .whatever, and you see TV commercials with .whatever, you're going to start thinking that maybe I ought to go to .whatever. And it's just the human nature, because that's where the money is. And you follow the money, and you usually come out right.
Yeah, one of the things, it's more of a comment. I'm on the front lines with domain sales and so forth. And what we see is, anybody that looks at the television, you go on TV and you're watching a show. And I tell this to all my clients, you see a break, and there's a 3-minute break, and there's 6 advertisements in that break. They're all advertising the .com. We're all conditioned to look at the .com and there's so much money behind the brands. So if you look at least in my personal opinion, you're probably 10 to 15 years away, even for the early adopter, to understand the true value of the new extension. So while I put my hand up because I think the value of the .com is declining, I think that's a short-term effect. And the long-term effect would be that the .com will always reign supreme. I mean, that's my
I mean, you know, there's no one gTLD that'll displace .com. That's not going to happen. But and I don't think it's a fair question that you know, will the new gTLDs make .com worth less? What it'll do is a lot of us have compound word phrases that will become worth less. And a lot of the big words will become worth more.
Because
they're not exclusive to each other.
Right, and the main reason is because there's going to be a flood of millions of new options. It's going to be a flood of inventory. So while some keyword domain names will retain their value.
Yeah, but there's a difference between inventory and actual public knowledge of that inventory.
Right, a combination of. So, exactly. So when you have millions of new choices, and sometimes those choices are a direct keyword with a word at the meaning to the right of the dot.
Sometimes they're worse.
Then it might be a better choice for some people.
Right,
George.
Like the biggest .com one-word dictionary terms that are obvious and big will always be valuable and even go up against all this new stuff. But the problem is, you know, many of us in our portfolios here have names like freemaps.com, two-word compound phrases, and I would much rather have free.maps than freemaps.com. And so and maybe that's an extreme example, or not, sorry, a close example where it's a coin toss.
I'll take both.
But yeah, you know, and that's probably the answer. You know, as to my point about there's not enough inventory, you should take both because there's not enough inventory.
There's plenty of inventory. Don't listen to them. You're never going to run out of inventory.
Yeah, a lot of good information come out of the session, and I think Monte said that there'll be 1,000 extensions coming out. 80% probably will fail, 20% will stay, and you need to run who's operating the extension. Right? Either friend is going to do excellent, but for people outside the domain name space, let's say I'm a small business owner, I want to open up a camera shop, and I don't know who's behind the operator, right? And I can go for camera. I can for something camera, maybe like Fort Lauderdale camera. But I can pick ForLauderdaleCamera.com. But let's say by coming go big, I go to advertising Super Bowl, and ForLauderdaleCamera, and the next year camera go out of business. I invest so many things in on my web party, my email, my website, and I don't know whether it's going to be there for 5 years from now or 10 years from now. I would rather probably go back to ForLauderdaleCamera.com. I know that it's going to be there forever. So that's my concern.
Let me just follow that up for 1 second, and that is that I can see a use for .Kmart because there'll be Hollywood.Kmart, Fort Lauderdale.Kmart, you know, Miami.Kmart, and so on. I can see that kind of a use. But George makes a good point here. Any response to that?
I agree. I think banks and institutions that need to make their email more secure and their brand more secure, it makes sense. They can buy that. And they can afford to buy that one name. But that's just a brand protection thing. But if you look around, then you expect every brand to go out there and register every single possible extension of what they own. That's just you're basically you're forcing them into buying it because they don't need it. And they don't have to have it. If anything, that you're just forcing them to protect themselves, and it's a waste of money.
Let me before you start. I want to address. We're running out of domain names. I want to show you the fallacy. Phone numbers. Did we run out of phone numbers yet? The last time I looked, there's like 13 digits on a phone, and it rings every phone in the world. Every single phone in the world, 13 different digits. Did we run out? Go to Vonage. You can get thousands of phone numbers right now. We have not run out. 13 digits in a phone number. Is that right? 10, and then your country code. So 13 digits rings every single phone in the world.
But a phone number doesn't mean anything, so it doesn't matter what number you're assigned.
It doesn't mean anything. A phone number doesn't. It's your lifeline to your business.
No, but here's an important point. When you look at
the digits, they don't mean anything.
Listen.
Here's an important point. The phone number didn't run out, but the area code did.
No.
Yes.
Listen.
The area code did.
But it doesn't matter. It didn't affect.
The zip codes did.
It's still a phone number.
I know, but they had to put something in to make sure that you can still have that phone number, like an area code. And then when those area codes ran out, they had to get another area code.
Instead of having www.bay, you put www.ebay. That's where the prefix is. That's where the area codes come in, is the different letters. 13 different letters. You have 26 different variables because of all the letters and the numbers. It's so overwhelming.
But letters
you
spell
will never
words
run
and
out
words
of
have meaning.
.coms in anyone's lifetime here.
Letters have words and words have meaning. Numbers don't unless they have a particular meaning in a country or whatever. But
I thought,
you know, numbers don't spell words. So
I just want to make this
numbers, so they do.
in China,
so
they
this
do.
is, I think, relevant to the whole conversation. There's a company that is taking on AARP directly, and they're called AMAC. And they have a national marketing budget. They're radio campaigned all over the country. And they advertise the website as amac.us, and then the host has to say, it's not .com, remember, it's amac.us. So they have to proactively state the .com, that it's not the .com.
But by
make sure you go to
they're-
the right website, amac.us. So I just wanted, you know, you all to comment on that.
But by
real
definition,
happening.
they're going after a target audience that might require that extra assistance, where younger generations may not.
Right. That the average age is 60 or 70, so most don't even have computers, I don't think.
That's kind of our age. Go ahead, Rick.
Listen, none of us have the answers. We don't know. It'll be judged on a extension by extension basis, on a registry by registry basis, and also some people at some registries can say some stupid things that hurt other registries, and that's going to happen when you have 700 people all having different ad campaigns saying different things, and something's conflicting, like you know, .com is your father's domain name or your father's extension. That dog ain't gonna hunt. So
I think you have to remember one thing is that there's no one trying to sell you on buying a .com, really. It's there. And I think that a lot of these registries, and all of them, have a vested interest in selling you on buying their extension. You know, they're only going to make money if they convince us to buy their extension. As where .com is really, at this point, it sells itself. And I think you need to understand that you may be buying something that will be worthless the minute after you buy it. And it's going to be all about the marketing and the advertising. And at the end of the day, .com will continue to be there, and you won't have to worry if you buy that $5,000 $5,000.com, will it be there in 5 or 10 years? When you buy this new extension, you put your brand behind it, you're going to have to think every day when you wake up, is that going to exist tomorrow?
Right, but put the clock back, just one thing. Put the clock back 20 years ago when people didn't know what .com was. So we're now 20 years ago backwards, but moving forwards with 500 new choices.
Okay, but my question...
That's the similarity, but it's the difference also at the same time.
But 1 second, Jeff. My question here is, because it was mentioned earlier, but just went over briefly, .mobi was a failure. Why is somebody getting .mobile? And why will that be any more successful than .mobi?
Well, .mobi's intent, obviously, when it came out, was that it was going to be the only domain name where you can properly see a mobile device's screen, and that was the technology behind it. Obviously, the web figured that, the internet figured that stuff out, so that's what kind of killed the .mobi extension. They're actually successfully building websites now, but all these new extensions aren't going to just be registered domain names like .com. Some of them will come with applications. Some of them will come with tools and website builders, and you know, there's going to be, for instance, there's going to be a .secure that's going to have anti-phishing, anti-spam technology for banks and verification software. That domain name is going to cost $10,000 to register, but it's for banks and financial institutions. .web will be something that's $7 or $8 that competes with .com. But there's a .tickets that's coming out that will have a secured anti-fraud and counterfeiting application, which if you have a .tickets extension, it will guarantee that the ticket's valid and was never counterfeited. So think of the application side of the business, so all the apps that you use on your cell phone. The domain names, in many cases, will have applications attached to them and upsells and more viral, you know, attractiveness than just registering a domain name and you just using it like a .com. So think outside the box a little bit about what some of these are going to come with.
Monty, is StubHub going to change their name to StubHub.tickets?
What's that?
Is StubHub going to change their name to StubHub, or Ticketmaster going to change it to .tickets?
Possibly. You know, there's 4 or 5 applicants going after .tickets. So some of them are big ticket corporations. So that might happen.
Yet they could have probably bought tickets.com for, you know, a decent price, and they never went after that.
Yeah, but again, you're entering a new. It's a different world. You're still thinking we're in this, only us in the room in this generation. We're talking about billions of more people getting online that are starting businesses.
Send me to their Facebook page. They don't send me to their web page. And when they need a domain name, they still ask
But
for
that's
.com.
them. The people that are going to operate .tickets are going to offer a secured mechanism to buy and sell tickets. You know, it's a big problem. It's a multi-billion-dollar problem in the industry, but their application for .tickets is going to prevent that. So just think about the domain names, not about how we use them today, but how some of the new application builders, including Google, by the way, who's going after 110 of their own extensions, they're obviously not just throwing pennies at it. They're going to make sure that some of those extensions have
Google
meaning and definition. And of course, Google and
Sure.
Amazon and Microsoft, they all have huge wins at stake here. They want them all to be successful because more internet traffic means more web advertising, which means more money in their pockets. So they want every single one of them to be successful. So, you know, think about that as well.
It could be also about control and some big companies losing control. So think about that too.
Yeah.
This is a fact. I was out in Chicago, and I'm sorry, I lost my voice. I was in Chicago, and I happened to be in the restroom, and I heard people speaking in line. They had flown in to Chicago. This was about 2 years ago. Their entire company to let them know about the change. There is no success without both. I don't mean that there won't be somebody that learns how to do the twist, or somebody that can come out and twerk, or the future of the individual success or the individual stars. But I do think that for solid success in the extension, you've got to pay attention to both.
Yeah, for sure. And as Tim brought up, you know, in foreign countries, everybody thinks everybody goes to .com, but they don't. I mean, who lives in Germany, Frederick? So almost every truck, every advertisement obviously is a .de, not .com. I mean, all of them. And a lot of the names have dashes in them.
Which is fine. Country codes are great.
Yeah, but country
brands are great.
Again, it's another example. It's not a .com world. It's a .com world to us.
There's only
but
one
it's not
global
a .com
brand.
world in the rest of the world.
But
it's a dot.
Hold it, one at a time.
There's only one global brand, and it's .com. If you want to be global, you have to be .com. It's simple. .com. You know, Frank mentioned yesterday they're going to be spending $200 or $300 million to promote .whatever. Guess what? They spend $200 or $300 million to promote .com in minutes, in hours. Go catch up with that. You know, it all comes down to numbers and dollars and cents every single time.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be an either or either, right. Because a retailer could have their .com, and that could be their corporate site or their storefront, and they can have a .club where their community and affinity
and that's what's going to happen.
See,
I agree with that.
And most companies aren't global. Most companies are local.
Okay, here, let me ask
most
you this
companies
question.
are geo and local and targeted. So the big companies are global.
Let me ask you this one. Probably the most successful country code is .de. Okay, how will these new extensions affect country codes like .de or .couk or .com.au? Tim?
Yeah. It's sure going to affect the .nz market. I can't speak for .de, but there's a bunch of applicants from Germany too, so I'm sure it's going to have an impact. But I know it's a difficult. It's not the existing market. It's hard to get your head outside of this US-centric, .com-centric mindset. I understand that, but it's so significant. You just don't quite get it, I don't think. And particularly, I'm sorry, I've forgotten the gentleman's name.
Lonnie.
Yeah, particularly him, I think. I think that's a great example of what you can't quite see outside .com. But there's a big world out there, and in New Zealand, as I said before, .com's not trusted. Neither is Facebook, because it's American.
Listen, Rick and I have no vested interest in someone buying a .com. You guys have a vested interest, because if they don't buy your extension, you guys are out of business. And I think that, to me, is a very big distinction. You have a lot of people out there that they have to sell that extension in order to be successful. We gain nothing if you buy a .com. The chances are you're not buying it from us. We're just looking at the roadmap and seeing, you know, we want people to be successful and not waste your money and throw it into something that could potentially fail. Now, granted, some will be very successful, but there is a vested interest in each and every extension for it to succeed. Where .com, it's the way the world works.
We have a vested interest in bringing consumer choice to a market that only has one domain name on the table.
Right. It's a different market, and I understand that.
And VeriSign's interest is probably not to have these come out very soon at all, and they're doing everything they can not to have them come out very soon. So their vested interest is to protect .com for obvious reasons. They're even threatened by .co. And it's a fact that they are.
I'd like to take more questions. Unfortunately, we're out of time because the next panel starts in 3 minutes. I want to thank this panel, Lonnie, Borck, Rick Schwartz, Monte Cahn, Jeff Sass, and Tim Johnson, and Frank Schilling in absentia. He had to catch a plane. Let's give them all a round of applause.
It was just a knockout punch.